Hi there, this is Vincent Cassie coming to you from the Autocrat podcast, where we relaxingly talk through mythology, the Roman world, eventually when we get to it, and just really have fun and enjoy each other's company, laugh, create fun stuff, fun drawings, make insane suggestions about people that we talk about. So yeah, come join us and listen to us wherever you want.
Yes, a journey through Greco-Roman civilization from myths like the Titanomachy to 1453 and beyond. And as my co-host said, if you want to find out who we believe to be a frog in Greek mythology or which king might be a tortoise, well, come and join us over on Autocrats. You can find us wherever you find your podcast or at our website www.autocratpodcast.wordpress.com. We hope to see you there.
Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the rulers of Persia from Diocles to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. I am Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, and my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 97, Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr.
97 episodes, I still struggle with the intro.
Yes. We all need time. You know what? We recently changed it, Sariel. I feel like we can cut you some
Yeah,
slack
you
there.
threw a new word in there, a new name.
This is like episode 5 of season 2, a new thing. It's fine. So yes, welcome everybody. We hope you enjoyed the start of the Umayyads and what happened with Yazid, who everybody hated so much that people still throw rocks at his grave in the modern day.
Yeah.
Bad times were had by all. And well, now Abdullah is going to try and bring it back. He's going to try and make the caliphate go back to the sort of more elective, more religiously inspired state compared to what the Umayyads made it. Sariel, do you think he's going to be successful? Do you think it's going to work out, or do you think that the wheel of history is going to turn so that the rich and powerful remain rich and powerful?
I mean, that's usually how it goes. But again, we're at the beginning of some stuff, so I cannot tell you. I really have no particular, hopes or predictions for this episode at this point. I'm just waiting to see what happens, because things keep going ways. Things keep going ways.
Yeah, it does go. It happens. But hey, so we'll get to find out how things will go this time. So we can briefly recap what happened during Yazid's life, which was mostly bad things.
Yeah.
So Yazid was the son of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, so he was the second Umayyad Caliph, the first caliph to succeed from his father, so it looks like it's trying to become a hereditary thing.
Yeah.
But then Yazid came into conflict with all the other people who thought that, well, he had no legitimacy. He shouldn't be in charge of the caliphate. This is not how we do things. You don't just give it to your son.
Yeah.
And so, firstly, there was a rebellion by Hussein, the son of Ali, which was suppressed in blood, something for which Yazid is often cursed. But then there was a rebellion of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, our protagonist of today, who managed to take control of Arabia and was sort of setting up resistance against Yazid. Yazid managed to sack Medina and then eventually attacked Mecca, setting the Kaaba on fire accidentally. Bad times for all. But before Mecca could fall and Abdullah be defeated, Yazid died based on some dramatically appropriate way.
Right.
And this is when we get to Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. So we'll see how he handles the caliphate. So what has happened before is that Yazid did leave the throne to his own son, but his son is a teenager, nobody respects him, so the Umayyads are now only in control of Syria, which is, their home base, let's say, while the rest of the caliphate is just looking around and saying, well, that guy, Ibn al-Zubayr, looks a lot more legitimate than anyone else. We should probably follow him. So it looks like he's currently in control of Persia, so that's why we're covering him as opposed to Yazid's children.
I see.
Okay, so let's go back to his birth. Let's go back to see who he was like. Because if you remember, Serial, Yazid was the first person we've covered to have been born a Muslim, to have been born into Muslim society. Right?
True. Yeah.
And Ibn al-Zubayr is slightly older than him, but is also raised as a Muslim himself. What we have is that he was born in May of 624 in Medina, only 20 months after the Hijrah, which saw Muhammad flee to the city after being chased out of Mecca, making Ibn al-Zubayr possibly the first child born to the emigrants to Medina. So that's significant, ideologically, saying, oh, you're the first, not exactly the first Muslim child, but close enough.
Yeah.
So pretty important. Some also say that he was born on the 1st of November of 622, only 4 months after the Hijrah. There are different traditions. In any case, he is the first child to be born.
Yeah.
Abd Allah's father was a man called al-Zubayr, who was one of the first 5 adult men to convert to Islam.
Yep.
He was also a prominent commander of Muhammad's army and was one of the key figures in defeating the Meccan forces and consolidating Islam. So we're going back to this old system of, we don't really care if you are the powerful person from Mecca who has a bunch of money and has had it for generations.
Yeah.
We care that you are one of the people who followed the Prophet. You are one of the people who believed the most, who sacrificed the most to actually achieve what we've gotten so far.
Yeah.
Al-Zubayr was also one of the men that was chosen by Umar as one of the possible candidates for the caliphate, and one of the people who would elect the next caliph from among them. So remember when there was the council that elected Uthman, Al-Zubayr, our protagonist's father, was one of the members of this council. So he could have been made caliph, but they decided otherwise. Instead, Abdullah's mother was a woman called Asma, who was the eldest daughter of Abu Bakr, the first caliph, and sister to Aisha, which was the youngest and favorite wife of the Prophet. According to one source, it's possible that Ibn al-Zubayr was named Abdullah, which means servant of God, by the Prophet himself. The Prophet was like, this is the new baby, cool, call him servant of God.
Yeah.
That's
Let's make it very clear from the start. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's also said that the Prophet blessed him by feeding him with a date that he himself had chewed before his mother breastfed him. So he's just being fed by the Prophet. The first food that Ibn al-Zubayr has is from the Prophet. He is being named by the Prophet. He is the grandson of a caliph and the son of a guy who could have been caliph. So again, a bunch of religious credentials that he has is just entirely covered.
I'm not sure if babies can eat anything other than milk, but I guess a date might be okay.
If it's been pre-chewed, I guess. I don't know. I've not had occasion to feed babies, so I am not the best person to ask for this, but still. Then, as a young boy at the age of 8, Ibn al-Zubayr was then brought before the Prophet, where he boldly gave his allegiance, and Muhammad said that he truly was the son of his father. He deserved this position as one of the closest companions of the Prophet. He was also raised in the Prophet's household by his aunt Aisha, since she did not have any children with the Prophet, because she was too young for that. So essentially he is, in a way, a bit of an adoptive son of Muhammad, which, again, religious credentials for him becoming caliph eventually. Then eventually, Ibn al-Zubayr grew up, and in his youth he followed his father on different campaigns, and he participated in the early expansions of the caliphate. Reportedly, he watched the Battle of Yarmouk from a hill. This was the battle that in 636 defeated Heraclius and allowed the caliphate to expand into Syria and Palestine and Egypt and, destroy the last Roman army that was standing in defense of the empire. And during all this time, Ibn al-Zubayr was 12, and 4 years later, he was part of the expedition that went and conquered Egypt. So he's getting a lot of early experience in seeing how the caliphate works.
I thought you were going to say he was 12 and 4 years later he was 16, as one tends to be.
Just quick maths. Yeah, exactly. It's good stuff. But yeah, this is strongly in contrast to like Yazid, who was a kid who led one expedition
Yeah.
and was the son of Muawiyah, but, Ibn al-Zubayr was there at the start, and he's been there, and he personally knew the Prophet, and it's,
Yeah,
there's all
he's
these
got all
extra
the
reasons for legitimacy.
credentials are there.
Then, under the Caliphate of Umar, he took part in raids on Roman Africa and is said to have personally killed the exarch of Carthage. So, the Roman governor of the region, Ibn al-Zubayr, went personally and stabbed the man. And then in 650, he also participated in campaigns on the opposite side of the Caliphate in northern Persia, where he was dealing with the remaining Sassanid resistance and making sure that that was properly stamped down.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, upon the rise of Uthman, Ibn al-Zubayr was made part of the commission in charge of writing down the accepted version of the Quran. And he was also tied to Uthman, as he was one of the men who actively defended the Caliph when he was under siege in his house in Medina. Remember, when Uthman was about to be killed by the mob, Ibn al-Zubayr was there, and he received over 10 wounds in his defense on the day Uthman was killed, and his house was finally breached. So, very close to the Caliphate. We then get to the crisis period of the Caliphate of Ali, because Ibn al-Zubayr and his father accompanied his aunt Aisha to Iraq to protest the murder of Uthman, and saying, well, Ali shouldn't be Caliph right now, he should actually apprehend the murderers, and we should just make a deal with this. This was the whole crisis around the first fitna that we saw a couple of episodes ago. And they fought at the Battle of the Camel, where Ali's forces tried to fight these rebels. Al-Tabari also tells us that the people of Kufa in northern Iraq wanted al-Zubayr, the father of our protagonist, to be the next caliph before the decision of Ali being caliph was made. So again, we're very closely tied to everything. But Ibn al-Zubayr's father was killed during the Battle of the Camel, while he himself fought valiantly, defending his aunt, and managed to survive despite receiving about 40 wounds in battle.
Oof,
which,
okay.
Intense time. Bad day at the office there. He then later, after his forces were defeated, he returned to Medina with Aisha, where he did not interfere in the war between Ali and Muawiyah, possibly because he was recovering from all the stab wounds.
Yeah.
40 wounds
will
leave you in bed for a while. That's kind of important. So, alright, eventually, Ibn al-Zubayr remains in Medina. Muawiyah becomes caliph. Ali is defeated, killed. The Alids are also vaguely either sent into hiding or not really at the forefront of politics anymore. And Ibn al-Zubayr himself decides to lay low. He doesn't really oppose Muawiyah. He sees that he has some sort of legitimacy. He was chosen by some sort of a council.
Yeah.
He was one of the people who helped conquer Syria. So, you know what? Fine. I suppose he does deserve somewhat of the position he has. Well, Ibn al-Zubayr participated in Yazid's attack on Constantinople in 669. While helping the young prince, he was one of the soldiers that tried to either try and conquer Constantinople, but failed, or simply besieged Constantinople and held it up and made sure that everything was in order, at least. But all this changed when Yazid was nominated as heir to the caliphate. Because, as we've seen so far, Ibn al-Zubayr is a member of the party of people who want the caliph to be more a religious figure than a political figure.
Yeah.
So it's fine that you're good with politics, it's fine that you're the son of somebody, but if you're not religiously qualified, you shouldn't be caliph.
Yeah. So that, to them, that is more important.
That's right. And so he was actually the head of a delegation that went to Muawiyah, the caliph, and offered him 3 different options that weren't Yazid and they would accept. So they're saying, we're not just being difficult for the sake of it. We have options. We have people that could be caliph. Choose one of these people. Come on. Don't make this be ugly.
We can do this the easy way.
Yeah.
Please choose the easy way.
The 3 options were that Muawiyah should either leave the choice of an heir and just abandon it like Muhammad had done.
Yeah.
So say, you know what, just handle it yourselves. This isn't my place to say. Either choose a member of the Quraysh unrelated to him, like Abu Bakr had done,
Mm-hmm.
So Abu Bakr selected Umar.
Yeah.
They weren't closely related. They were a member of the same tribe, but that's as far as it went. Or he should do like Umar had done and select a series of Qurayshi candidates that would then vote amongst themselves for who should become caliph.
Yeah.
This way, he would follow the precedents of peaceful succession to the caliphate and avoid the risk of a civil war. However, as we saw, Muawiyah had chosen to remain firm in his choice of Yazid, who had already gathered support from across the caliphate. Muawiyah had sent a bunch of valuable gifts different governors' ways to say, hey, accept my son.
Yeah.
And, well, he's not going to go back on that. It's too far.
Yeah, he already did the work, convincing everybody.
Yeah. Also, a brief detail. During the rule of Muawiyah, Abd Allah got into an argument over a payment with his brother Amr, and this resulted in Amr being imprisoned and Abdallah gaining the money. This will be relevant later.
Okay.
It will return. Remember that he has a brother called Amr who has been imprisoned.
Okay. I'm sure he's not happy about it.
Not especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, after Muawiyah's death, Ibn al-Zubayr joined forces with Hussein bin Ali and refused to recognize Yazid as caliph, and fled to Mecca from Medina. We saw last time that Hussein attempted to gather support in Iraq, but was killed there by Yazid's men. Ibn al-Zubayr had originally supported his friend, but had asked Hussein to not risk going to Iraq, but to declare his caliphate in Mecca, which was more religiously significant, and hey, that's where their support was, that's where a lot of people cared, but ultimately he could not convince Hussein. His friend's death then eventually prompted Ibn al-Zubayr to gather supporters against Yazid and say, okay, well, if you're just going to kill people like this, I guess you're no caliph of mine.
Yeah.
I will fight you to my last breath. And Abdullah's brother, Amr, the one from the money dispute I mentioned earlier.
Well, he came back real quick.
Came back real quick, yeah. He was sent as an agent by Yazid. Yazid sent Ibn al-Zubayr's brother over to him to try and arrest this man and bring him in chains all the way back to Damascus. However, Amr was defeated in battle by Abdullah's forces, and he was then later imprisoned and left in jail until he died, at which point his body was displayed publicly.
Wow. No respect, truly.
Yes. Abdullah had his brother tortured and whipped until he died in retaliation for what he had done to Abdullah's supporters and his son. So, bad times. Having now crossed swords with Yazid's men, Ibn al-Zubayr declared his rebellion openly with most of the Hijaz, which is the western coast of Arabia containing Mecca and Medina, who disliked Yazid's corrupt living and the killing of Hussein in Yazid's name. So, you killed a grandson of the Prophet, the adoptive son of the Prophet,
Will take revenge.
and grandson of a different caliph is now going to try and take revenge, so let's go. It's also interesting that he was contacted by the Kharijites. Remember the Kharijites, these people who believe that basically nobody is a true Muslim. They are the only true Muslims. Everybody else should be killed.
That's
the vibes they're full of.
intense.
They're not ideal people, but hey. Apparently the Kharijites contacted Ibn al-Zubayr, and he gave them the impression that he agreed with him. And when he was criticized for this stance, he stated that he would accept help from anyone, even the Turks and the Daylamites, the still Zoroastrian heirs of the Isbad-Badan family. So he's saying that, you know what, if it's worth taking down Yazid, I'm going to take help from whoever is going to give it to me. Because that guy needs to be taken down. He does not deserve his place.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
That's right. And that's when we get to the events of the last episode. Because, as we saw last time, Yazid sent an army which sacked Medina and then came to besiege Ibn al-Zubayr in Mecca. But, fortunately for Ibn al-Zubayr, they soon received news that Yazid had died.
Ah, well.
And the Umayyad army just basically faded away and retreated to Damascus to figure out what were they going to do. Incidentally, it's quite funny that this army invited Ibn al-Zubayr to Syria. I was like, hey, we're going back to Damascus if you want to just, like, have a chat with whoever the new caliph is.
Want to tag
You're
along?
welcome. Yeah.
Since we're going anyway.
Yeah. Ibn al-Zubayr was sort of cordial. He said, thanks but no thanks. But also as a sign of reconciliation with the soldiers, he opened the doors of the mosque in Mecca so that everybody could pray around the Kaaba together and say, okay, we're all Muslims in the end. My fight was with Yazid. I didn't think he was legitimate. So what are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, well, we have a power vacuum. We need to figure out who is going to become
Yet
caliph.
again.
What's going on? Yes, power vacuums abound. And this second fitna is still not exactly concluded. The second civil war needs to be dealt with. So in this new situation, Yazid had left a 19-year-old son with no experience in government.
Mm-hmm.
How well do you think the 19-year-old son is going to do, Serial?
I've been surprised before, but I would say not great, since he would need to get recognized and approved by a bunch of people who cannot agree. So...
Correct. And one of the main things that disqualifies you from being caliph is being dead.
Yep. I was going to say...
19-year-old died of disease after only a few months or even weeks that he had been nominated as caliph. So, not great. Which means there's even more chaos because Yazid has no sons left. That was his only son.
Mm-hmm.
That was an adult, at least. And so, who's in charge of the Umayyad clan now?
Well...
Everything is a mess. So, Ibn al-Zubayr just says, hey, listen, you had a 19-year-old for like 2 weeks. That didn't work out, and now you don't know who's going to be the head of the Umayyad clan. Why not just make me be in charge? You know,
I'm right
I have
here,
these close
guys.
ties with the Prophet. I have these close ties with the Caliph. I should be there. And people did agree. People thought, yeah, Ibn al-Zubayr sounds like a great choice for Caliph. And he received allegiance from the governors of Egypt, Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and the people who were opposing the Umayyads in Syria. So he basically has control of all the caliphate except the few Umayyads that are trying to figure out who should lead them.
Mm.
The Umayyads were now trying to gather some support together under Marwan I, who was a first cousin of Uthman and second cousin of Muawiyah, with just a few small strongholds in Syria they were holding together. It's also interesting to note that a later historian from the 11th century claims that Marwan, this Umayyad leader, had offered his allegiance to Ibn al-Zubayr at first and was sent as an ambassador to Damascus, where he then later recanted on his oath.
Interesting.
Although this might just be a later story meant to discredit the Umayyads. Who knows?
Oh, maybe. I was gonna say, why, what happened? You know.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe he felt unsafe and was around Ibn al-Zubayr and said, no, I totally support you. And then when he was sent as a messenger, he was like, please help me. This is terrible. I'm going to join your rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
We then get to the Kharijites, wondering if to support Ibn al-Zubayr, because they'd seem to be in accordance when Yazid was still alive. So are they going to support him now that he is claiming the caliphate? Does he count as a true Muslim? We don't know. Well, apparently they sent a delegation that went to the new caliph and questioned his beliefs, where he was honest and showed that they had opposite ideas. And so he was abandoned by the Kharijites, although now he had most of the caliphate under his command, so probably he didn't mind that much. Although, given that they had murdered Ali, you might want to watch his back.
Yeah, maybe he minded a little bit.
Yeah, a tiny bit. Okay, so now, with the control of most of the caliphate, Ibn al-Zubayr needs to stamp down on the Umayyad resistance, because there's still a few of them under this Marwan, and they need to make sure that everything will be properly set up. So, the Umayyads themselves actually start by going on an offensive in Syria and Egypt. So, Ibn al-Zubayr had a few options here on how to act, because some of his supporters asked him to go directly to Damascus to receive everyone's allegiance, sort of accepting that Damascus was the new capital of the caliphate, and this is just where everybody was meant to go. But Ibn al-Zubayr is a traditionalist, as we've seen based on all his actions, and he wanted actually everybody to come to Mecca, and that should be the seat of the caliphate. That's where Islam was born, that's where everybody should go to, because this is the deal.
So he already starts out by saying, actually, I'm not even gonna go where people want me to go to. get like recognized properly. I want to do it my way.
Yeah, exactly. And, the caliphate had only moved to Damascus with Muawiyah,
Yeah.
which was, about 30-ish years ago.
Yeah, so it's relatively recent.
It is
can
reasonable. Yeah, it's soon enough that you could change it and everybody would be like, yeah, that's fair enough. That's what happens. While going to Damascus would have been effective to cut off Umayyad support at its source, it's likely that Ibn al-Zubayr preferred to stay close where his support was strongest so he could consolidate his power. Because, yes, everybody had given him his allegiance, but what if he's defeated in battle?
Yeah.
Do people just switch sides? Because, again, we have to remember that the caliphate, how Muawiyah had set it up, was based on a bunch of strongly independent governors who have a close personal relationship with the caliph.
Yeah.
But in such a dangerous time of civil war, these governors could just say, no, actually, you don't look like you're going to win. I'll shift my support to the other guy. So you want to make sure that everything is as stable as possible and you look like the best option for the future. There's also the political angle of taking back the caliphate from the Umayyads, because they had sort of stolen the caliphate and taken it to Syria, while the Rashidun Caliphate, where the caliphs were rightly guided, that was based in Mecca and Medina.
Mm-hmm.
So he's also trying to say, no, I'm not like these Umayyads who are corrupt and just worldly rulers. I'm a proper religious ruler, just like the original caliphs were. And this is where I'm standing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, on the religious role, sometime at the beginning of his reign, Ibn al-Zubayr demolished the Kaaba, which had been damaged by Yazid's siege, and built it in a new shape.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The caliph actually claimed, according to a certain hadith, which is a saying of the prophet, that Muhammad himself would have done this work, but he didn't do it to avoid angering the recently converted Quraysh. So that Muhammad had this new vision for what the Kaaba was meant to look like, but since they just recently conquered Mecca, he didn't want to rock the boat too far, so he just left it to his successors to do. And now Ibn al-Zubayr is doing this.
I mean, if you believe that, cool. And if you don't, well, you can take it up with the caliph.
Yes, and there's a big deal with the hadiths, because the hadiths are not inside the Quran, right? The Quran is doesn't talk about the prophet as a story like the Bible, while hadiths are sort of closer to how you would see the Gospels, for example, where it's like, oh, the prophet did this thing and said this other thing and talked to these people and blah, blah, blah. But seeing which are authentic is a big element in Islamic theology. Especially because a lot of them were written down like a couple hundred years later, after the prophet's time. So it's basically a lot of people arguing what's canon and what isn't, saying, no, he would not have said that. Or like, no, this is absolutely entirely his vibe. This is what he would have said.
Yeah.
And there's just a bunch of arguments there on what is in the canon. And according to some scholars, this reconstruction of the Kaaba extended the relevance of the religious site in the process of the Hajj by associating its foundation more strongly with the Prophet Abraham and extending the space dedicated to worship of the Black Stone. But the civil war rages on, Serial. And it looks like these Umayyads seem to quickly regain control of Egypt, though this would only gain them a momentary advantage since there were very few Arabs in that part of the caliphate. So they have Egypt, but it's not as big a deal as you'd expect because, as mentioned, there's just a few small garrison towns. There's the nucleus of Cairo there, but most of the people are just local Christians who don't really have a horse in this fight, dog in this fight, an animal in this fight.
Yeah, a dog in the race. A horse in the race? Sure.
Horse in the race. There we go. That
expression.
Yeah. But the Umayyads have this as a nice staging point. So now they own Syria, vague bits of Palestine, and Egypt, while Ibn al-Zubayr has most of the east. Having this position, the Umayyads made a big push towards Hejaz in 685 and in Kufa in northern Iraq in 686. But Ibn al-Zubayr's forces managed to repel them and ensure that the region would be secure from outside threats for the next years. But this doesn't mean that the city of Kufa in Iraq was fully secure, because, as mentioned, there's a large independence of these border regions and they can do a lot of what they like. So there were some notable social tensions building up there during the Umayyad advance. The first social tension in Kufa was between the first arrived Arabs, who had the best pick of the new lands and had become nobles, and the later arrived Arabs, who were left with whatever was left over.
Mm-hmm.
But all these people were then in contrast with the local Iraqis, who had begun to convert to Islam, but they were not considered fully equal to Muslim Arabs. This is because the locals paid extra taxes, so equality would reduce that advantage, but also the new nobles were worried of losing control of this massive new converts who did not owe them family allegiance.
Yeah, ain't that always the case?
So, a large part of the reasoning, this large social tension, which will just keep growing for the next hundreds of years, is the caliphate an Arabian empire or a Muslim empire?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if I am a Persian and I convert to Islam, am I equal to you, Arab, who was converted to Islam before me? Because we're all, siblings in the Muslim faith?
Yeah.
Or am I lesser than you because the Arabs have a special place in Islam and they should be more highly honored, more respected?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this whole tension of, the locals saying, well, we're just Muslims like you. Why don't we have your same rights? And the Arabs saying, no, but actually we converted first. We helped build Islam, so we deserve more rights than you do.
I see.
So it's complicated. All these bubbling tensions led in 685 to the expulsion of Ibn al-Zubayr's governor by a man called Mukhtar bin Abi Ubaid, who wished for equal treatment of all Muslims, regardless of origin.
Mm-hmm. A noble pursuit.
So this man, Mukhtar, tried to make a deal with Ibn al-Zubayr, but Ibn al-Zubayr did not trust him. So Mukhtar decided to support his own candidate for caliph. He went for another son of Ali,
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, as caliph.
Okay.
Although it looks like this candidate wasn't too keen on this, but the memory of Hussein's killing was still fresh, so it was a good support.
I see.
And it's important to know that Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, this Alid candidate to the caliphate, was not a grandson of Muhammad. He was a son from another wife.
Mm-hmm.
So he is slightly less prestigious than Hussein and Hassan had been at the time. But not only did Mukhtar proclaim this man to be caliph, he proclaimed him to be the Mahdi, which means the savior, or sort of like a messiah, which will establish justice for all Muslims. And interestingly enough, I've seen it proposed by some scholars that the idea of a Mahdi might come from the pre-Islamic Zoroastrian ideas of the recent converts, with the idea of a Saushant who would eventually come back and usher in 1,000 years of glorious reign at the end times. So this is essentially who, if you remember from last season, Bahram Chobin was claiming to be.
Yeah.
So it might be that there's echoes of this tradition here in this selection of Ali. Also, as a further show of his Alid credentials, this man Mukhtar made sure to track down the killers of Hussein bin Ali and kill them one by one. So they had been working on the orders of Yazid, but now the Nuremberg defense doesn't work.
Yeah.
So he's just going to execute them all.
Yep.
For their crimes. But the Alid rebellion soon ran into problems because, as we mentioned, its sort of radical ideals were that everybody should be equal. Every Muslim is equal, regardless of whether they're Arabs or not. Because the Arab nobles of Kufa feared these more radical proposals, so they joined Ibn al-Zubayr's side, trying to fight off the enemies. In particular, Ibn al-Zubayr's brother, Musab, had been sent to return the city to the Caliph in Mecca. Together with the local nobles, they managed to retake the city of Kufa and kill Mukhtar, ending the Alid Caliph's bid for the throne with quite a lot of bloodshed. Although, interestingly enough, it's fun to note that the heir of Mukhtar would later transfer leadership of his movement to the Abbasids, but that's a story for another episode. Okay. For the people who know the Abbasids, yes, those Abbasids. For the people who don't know the Abbasids, don't worry about it, it'll be fine.
Okay. I guess I'll find out.
But this rebellion with Mukhtar in Kufa and Egypt sort of falling out of Ibn al-Zubayr's control means that the control of the Caliph was being eroded away from a lot of the Caliphate, because several Kharijites took control of eastern and southern Arabia, which left Ibn al-Zubayr relatively isolated in Hejaz. So there's his brother controlling most of Iraq and Iran by extension, and Ibn al-Zubayr himself controls Hejaz with Mecca and Medina. The Umayyads have Egypt, Syria, and Palestine, while the Kharijites have the east and south of Arabia. So there's sort of these split blobs in the civil war. However, fortunately for our man, Ibn al-Zubayr, internal fighting soon drove the Kharijites out of Arabia, because an extremist faction took control in Fars and sort of stayed there where Ibn al-Zubayr was not able to dislodge them. Apparently, this faction was so extreme that said that you should kill women and children of anybody who didn't join their struggle against the false caliphs, which is a harsh time. Although, weirdly enough, this didn't include Jews and Christians because they were just doing a good job being their own religion. So,
what? Okay.
They should just keep doing their bit. Yeah, it's just like, if you're the wrong type of Muslim, all your family will be murdered.
This is wild.
But if you're a Christian, that's fun. Yeah, go for it. Have a good time.
You're Christian, well, we have nothing to... Like, that's not the same religion, so we have nothing to add. You continue
exactly. It's
doing
your own
your
business.
thing.
Have fun.
That's a weird... Yeah, that's intense, because in the end you're punishing the people who are already on your side. But I guess you don't see them as being on your side, because they're the wrong type of Muslim, so...
Yeah, exactly. This is why, again, the Kharijites are not a majority branch of Islam to this day. Some vague descendants of them are the majority religion in Oman, although it has been filtered through several different lines of thought. So the original Kharijites are no longer a thing. But yeah, in general, Ibn al-Zubayr seems to show some cracks at the seams, because he was generally criticized for not leading his armies himself, but leaving the work to subordinates who didn't really get much support from him. So he was mostly staying in Mecca or Medina, coordinating things, but he didn't really direct much. Again, this is the problem that we fall into. He is very credentialed religiously, but politically he is not.
Yeah, this is the opposite that we had before. When you said that they were prioritizing the religious role of the caliph, I figured this might be an issue. Because I was thinking, well, then, like, what happens if there's no political skill at all?
Yeah. So all this chaos allowed the Umayyads to build up their support in Syria, while Ibn al-Zubayr weakened his position. So he removed his capable brother Musab from the governorship of Iraq for unclear reasons. Maybe because he was giving out a bunch of money to charity, and Ibn al-Zubayr disagreed with this.
Sounds like his brother was doing well, though.
Yeah, it seems like he was doing a good job, and he had, reconquered Kufa and everything. But it's also true that Musab was a friend of the Umayyad Caliph, and had been invited to switch sides.
I see, yeah.
He had refused, but do you want to keep that guy in power if he is so close to the enemy leader?
If you don't trust him, I guess.
Give it time. Yeah. And lastly, he had married a daughter of Hussein bin Ali, something which would provide him with Alid's support and a claim to the caliphate. So maybe seeing a bunch of new claimants to the caliphate rising, Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr is looking at his brother and saying, I don't trust him enough to give him control. Yeah. Yes, he's capable. Yes, he's good at his job. But
that's a bad thing right now.
Would fall sooner. Yeah. In his place, Ibn al-Zubayr placed his own son, who unfortunately wasn't as skilled. He was inexperienced and unable to keep control of the province, with the administration suffering severely and these extremist Kharijites emboldened into attacking Iraq from their base in Persia. All this later led Ibn al-Zubayr to reinstate his brother Musab, his capable brother Musab, as governor of Iraq, and he managed to push back the Kharijites and reorder things, but, you've allowed the cracks to show. This is not a good time overall.
Little too late, I guess.
Yeah, so things were damaged enough that in 691, the new Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik managed to capture Iraq for his cause, taking Iran out of Ibn al-Zubayr's hands. And he then sent down an army to Mecca to take down his rival for the caliphate. The conquest of Iraq was relatively straightforward, since many Kufans had refused to support Ibn al-Zubayr's brother Musab because of the bloody way he'd suppressed Mukhtar's rebellion before, that equalist rebellion at the start. And also, most of his army was in Iran facing the Kharijites, so he couldn't really face the Umayyads head on. There was one major battle between Musab and the Umayyads, where most of the Ubayrid army defected to the Umayyads, and Musab himself was killed in battle rather than surrender. So he was loyal after all, but, you know, if only we'd known, that would have been better.
Yeah, again, like, you have to establish your trust early.
Yeah, exactly.
And trust is a hard thing to keep in political matters. Because, you know, it involves a certain strength of self and morality, and, you know, trust that the other person is not going to betray you.
Yeah. And the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik, who personally led his armies and managed to conquer Kufa, when he entered the city, he proclaimed, if Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr were caliph as he claims, he would come out and share his law equally with his supporters. He would not plant his tail in the sanctuary of Mecca. So, yeah. Ibn al-Zubayr says he's so great, he says he's so qualified to be caliph, but why isn't he leading his armies? Why isn't he actually doing the work?
Good question.
While the Umayyad candidate to caliph, he is just leading the army in person, and he's reconquered a large part of the caliphate for his family. So yeah, finally, the Umayyads now are besieging Mecca once again. The siege took 6 months, and this time they paid special attention that the city not be harmed, unlike with Yazid.
Yeah.
So they're not just bombarding things willy-nilly.
It's an improvement.
And they pay special attention not to attack the Kaaba during pilgrimage time. So they're making sure that we're not harming pilgrims. Our fight is with Ibn al-Zubayr, not with the city.
Yeah, again, like, you want to represent this religion. If you harm the faithful, then what message is that sending?
Yeah. Although, in fairness, there was some damage in the end during the later stages of the siege, mostly just due to the general chaos of it. But they tried to limit it as much as possible.
I mean, yeah, if it is, you know, if the battle is happening there.
Surprisingly enough, Ibn al-Zubayr was joined in the defense of the city by a contingent of Abyssinians and Kharijites who were just there to defend the house of God, and were like, we don't care about supporting you specifically, but we just want to defend the Kaaba. It was like, fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah.
Good for it. Go for it. This continued for several months until many of Ibn al-Zubayr's supporters started to defect, including 2 of his sons, particularly the one who had been the governor of Iraq as well. This was because the siege had become quite extreme. It had become very difficult. And the inhabitants were being forced to eat their horses.
Oof, yeah.
And also one particular event, when the Umayyads launched a dog into the city with a catapult, the inhabitants of Mecca began to eat that as well. So
I guess if you have nothing else,
times.
Meat is meat.
I mean, if you're that desperate to eat dogs that have been thrown via catapult into your city,
like, that dog is not doing well anyway.
Yeah. So Ibn al-Zubayr himself is starting to see the end in sight. He says, well, I used to have most of the caliphate, now I just have Mecca. The Umayyads are around me. Should I just surrender? So he goes, and who does he consult, Cyril? Who would people consult when asking if to surrender to an enemy force?
The Oracle? God, I guess?
No, who has more authority than God and the Oracle? Your mother.
That is so true. I'm like, I mean, what would they do before? Like, they would, like, wait for an omen or something, but yes.
Yes.
Actually, asking your mom.
Ibn al-Zubayr goes to talk to his mom. Is
actually,
like, hey mom, should I just surrender? Yes.
Very valid.
Yeah. And so he talks to his mother and says, listen, things are looking bad. Do I just give up? You know, it probably won't end well for me, but is it worth saving people the harm? And well, she tells him, my son, you know your strength and position better than I do. If you're fighting for the sake of truth, continue with it. But if you're fighting for the sake of worldly glory, then by God you are the worst creature, because you would be responsible for all your companions who have died for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ibn al-Zubayr then told his mother that he feared his body would be mutilated if he died in battle. I don't want my body to be desecrated. But his mother replied, "My son, if you flay a goat after she has been slaughtered, it does not hurt her."
Yeah.
So,
True.
intense times.
Like, why would you care? You'd be dead already.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what?
This should not be the
cares
thing
about your
you're...
honor?
Yeah,
This is...
that's worrying you.
So in the end, the 72-year-old Ibn al-Zubayr went basically on his own in a charge against the Umayyads and faded away into a glorious battle, dying in conflict with the people who he had tried to take the caliphate from.
Mm-hmm.
His body was later publicly displayed in the same place where his brother Amr had been exposed at the start of his rebellion against Yazid. His head was then sent to the Umayyad Caliph, who then himself ordered one of his men to send the head to the last Zubayrid governor of Khorasan in the far east of the caliphate. But this man refused and sent the head back to Ibn al-Zubayr's mother upon her complaint and had it buried in Mecca.
I see.
Despite his body being crucified publicly, which is not great.
No.
And that is the life of Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr. What do you think of him, Serial? He tried to bring the caliphate back to an older time, but ultimately the Umayyads are here to stay for at least a while more.
Yeah, people cannot make up their minds. I am worried that we're going a really long time without a stable government and a really long time without like a proper decision on how to have succession. You know?
Yes, fair.
And in the grand scheme of things, this is going to be an issue.
I mean, the next guy, who, no spoilers, is Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan, the new Umayyad Caliph. He's going to have to figure out how to make succession stable.
Yeah, because this can't keep happening.
We'll find out if he does a good job. Yeah, exactly. We could just have a civil war every generation, but still.
Yeah, I keep saying it every episode. It's been so many episodes already. Like, I am genuinely worried.
Yeah, because otherwise the caliphate will break apart. And is that going to happen? Who knows? We haven't gotten to Spain yet. How does that happen?
Yeah, true.
So we'll see next time if the caliphate can be consolidated, if we'll just break down in another civil war, if we'll be able to have a few years of peace and prosperity. But that's for another time.
Mm-hmm.
So now, Cyril, are you ready to rate Abd Allah ibn al-Zubayr?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? I like that he has a conversation with his mother about this.
In the glory of battle. Yeah.
And yeah, just death in battle is pretty good. It's pretty standard. Ultimately, all hope is lost. He decides, you know what? I'll just go out in a blaze of glory. This is me.
Yeah. I like it.
So I think it's pretty good. I do like the detail of the conversation with his mother. I feel like on standard, the death in battle would be a 5 for me. The mother conversation brings it up to like 6.
Yeah, that sounds good. I agree.
Sounds good? Okay. So with a 6 and a 6, we get a 6 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? Well, okay, let's look back at his youth. Back in his youth, he was part of the contingent that conquered Egypt in the first place. So he must have fought reasonably well then.
Mm-hmm.
He was then part of the contingent that attacked Roman Africa. He supposedly personally killed the exarch. He then fought in Iran, trying to consolidate Persia as well. Did a good job there. Pretty good. He was then one of the men personally defending Uthman at the end of his life. He defended the house from the siege, and he received 10 wounds that day. His next bit of battle prowess is during the Battle of the Camel, when he fought to defend his aunt Aisha, and he received 40 wounds that time, so very intense. He's definitely in the thick of battle. He doesn't shy away from
Yeah. Although, wasn't he criticized for that?
I mean, that's the thing, because it looks like as a younger man, he was often in the thick of battle and fighting personally. But as Caliph, he thought that his role was to stay in Mecca.
Yeah.
And just keep control of the caliphate from there. So there is that flip side. So as a young man, he does a lot of personal fighting. He is praised for it. But as an older man, as Caliph, he essentially has this extremely favorable position at the start, and he doesn't go to crush the Umayyads straight away. He doesn't choose to march on Damascus and take control of it. He essentially just loses everything bit by bit. And yeah, ultimately he dies in battle at the very end. So he's lost the full caliphate. You know, some of it was through people changing their allegiance, but Iraq certainly was from people conquering it and fighting and winning battles against the Zubayrid forces. So it's a story of two parts. It's sort of interesting to rate it that way. Do you have any opinions on what a good starting point should be?
It's a yes but no, right? Like, better at the beginning than at the end, but he does go die in battle. Yeah. And it's not that, I don't think this was a decision made out of cowardice to, like, stay away, but it was more...
No, it's more of a strategic idea of saying that, yeah.
Like, he believed that that's what he had to do. So, he was pretty successful at the beginning, right?
I mean, he was part of the people that helped conquer the caliphate in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess I'd go for minimum a 6.
Okay.
Because he's not bad. Did he have any horrible defeats aside from, dying in battle? But, like, he still went, even though he knew that he had doubts, because he was like, I'm probably not going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, his main crucial defeats are when the Umayyads take Iraq. When they do that, it's over, basically. And in that battle, the Zubayrids mainly defect to the Umayyads. They just switch sides. It's not even so much a strategic defeat as it is just people have decided, you know what? Again, it's also a prestige thing. Like, the Umayyad Caliph leads his armies in person, while Ibn al-Zubayr is far away in Mecca, and he's sent his brother, sure, but it doesn't look like he trusts his brother, and it's just a bit of a mess. So, I don't know. I feel like my starting point is a 5, but I could be talked into going either way, because that is his main defeat, and then ultimately, the attack on Mecca. Something that might sway you is that during the original civil war against Yazid, he was losing that. He lost the city of Medina, it was sacked, and he was being besieged, and the only way he was saved is because the caliph died, and it was like, oh, well, I guess I'm caliph now.
Yeah, it's not as great. I guess I'm considering, like, should we go up to a 7? Is a 6 too little?
Oh, I wouldn't go up to a 7.
Then I will stay at a 6. I wouldn't go, like, below a 6. Do you think it's too much? I mean, you can go lower.
If you're going for a 6, I might stick with a 5. Because I think that he is good at this, and he does a reasonably good job, but as caliph, his military performance is disappointing. So that's me. All right, so with a 5 and a 6, he gets an 11 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and manipulation? Not especially. He is, Does he do anything special? I'm just going to give you the faintest hints, is that he leads a delegation to Muawiyah saying, hey, here are your options for caliph. That's not very schemy, though. That's very open-faced. He does sort of build up a rebellion and start up against Yazid, so that's something, I guess. But ultimately, again, he is one of these people who are very straightforward, who are trying to keep to the straight and narrow as much as possible. So, while a man like Muawiyah would have been more capable in this field, and we've seen that he did gain the caliphate in 20 years of peace, but Ibn al-Zubayr doesn't seem like he's willing to use this sort of tools. So I don't think I can give him any points here.
Yeah, no, I don't think we did any sort of schemy. Everything was fairly above table.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I would go for a 0.
Yeah, so with a 0 and a 0, we get a 0 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? Again, he is trying not to be. That's his whole deal. He is trying not to be a shocking man. I mean, he is a rebel twice, which is interesting, because he's part of the rebellion against Ali back during the first fitna, and in the second fitna, he is rebelling against Yazid. So twice he rebels against an official caliph, let's say, legitimate being a more charged word. So he does that. He rebels a lot. But ultimately he does do his duty. He works faithfully. He makes sure that when the Umayyad forces are besieging Mecca the first time, he just lets them in to pray together. That's not very shocking. I mean, that might be a bit shocking, but that is very, pious of him. And then small shocking things, you could say that he didn't trust his brother to the point that he fatally damaged his prospects by deposing his brother as governor just because, he might get overthrown. That might be a bit of something. And besides that, he doesn't feel like a very shocking character.
No, it's like none of his decisions, like for example, comparing with the last episode where I was constantly like, why are we doing this? What is happening?
Correct, yes.
With him, it's like, this makes sense. Yeah, I get, very logical.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
everything.
Fair enough. He was more on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, there was this whole like brother. Was this his brother going to jail?
Brother
yeah, but
true. He did have his brother killed. Yeah, that's true.
Which it's always odd with close family relationships, but you can also have really bad family relationships, right? So
So he did have his brother killed when he was sent as a messenger, but this brother had also, done terrible things to Ibn al-Zubayr's supporters over in Damascus, so, I'd say, just because I remember the brother thing, I'd give him like a 2. Like, it's something,
I wouldn't,
not much.
I also wouldn't go like much higher. But
Fair enough.
Some points for the brother thing.
Yes. So with a 2 and a 2, he gets a 4 out of 20 for shock factor, which makes him the least shocking man we've covered this season. Our next category is Aaron Shine. How good was he for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Well, bad news. Persia's now infested with a bunch of extremists who have decided that they will kill all your family if you're not the correct type of religion. But if you're Christian, that's fine. So that's not ideal for Persia. That is slightly more controversial.
Yeah.
And then, again, you could argue that his heart is in the right place, saying that the caliphate should be led by good men as opposed to strategically inclined men. But he is starting up a civil war that is killing a bunch of people for, I'm not going to tell you the exact amount of time yet, but it is several years that this civil war is going on and people are dying and it's a whole mess. Also, he's opposed to Mukhtar's rebellion in Kufa, so he's basically saying that no, non-Arabs do not deserve the same rights as Arabs, despite being Muslims in the same way, because that's not great, is it?
No.
Especially on the Iranian front.
I feel like that's also, I mean, I don't know, I haven't read the Quran, so I don't know what the religion actually says about its believers. I feel like religion should be like everyone who is a believer should do this and that and have these and these rights, right? Like this is why you want to join. But
I mean, there's multiple aspects to it. There's the aspect of the Arabs converted first, so maybe they should have more rights because, it's like if you're the founder of a movement, you're going to be held in higher regard than if you are following and coming out with it when everything is fine and easy. So that's an option. Alternatively, you have the fact that the Quran is literally the word of God and it's spoken in Arabic. So if God wanted to choose a different language, God would have. So what is that saying about this community? But also, conversely, in the Quran generally, Muslims are, siblings. They're meant to treat each other with care and respect. And so how do you balance all these elements together? That's something that people are trying to deal with and will try to deal with for centuries. It's going to come to a head quite dramatically at some point, but we'll get there when we get there. And yeah, in general, the caliphate itself doesn't really, it doesn't expand or contract, but it is just eating itself from the inside, which is a bad time. I think that the caliphate is definitely worse off for Ibn al-Zubayr. How worse off is something I'm thinking about. I think my starting position is a 3. I could be convinced up or down.
I get it.
But essentially, you also need to remember that for Aaron Shine, we're not considering just how good he is for the caliphate before Iran. And he is definitely making a point of considering them second-class citizens. At least, the locals, not the Arabs who've moved there recently. So I think a 3, I might move down to a 2. What are your thoughts?
I wasn't super shocked. Yeah, again, things are not great for the Empire because, we're still not, there hasn't been a single period of, security. Even when we had a longer reigning caliph, it was still, religiously, the faith keeps splitting. Politically, the support keeps splitting.
It is a very messy time. Yeah, exactly. I don't.
So, is it worse?
The
I don't know, but it's not better
leadership.
Either. It hasn't been good. So.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like the Empire is falling. So, maybe a 3 is fine. It's just, like I said, when we started this, either they start actually setting up some rules and some rails to go by, or I'm impressed that it's gotten this long, and in the next 2 generations it would it will all disappear if nothing is set in place. But
yeah, I think the fact that you mentioned that the caliphate isn't falling fully, I think that's pushed me up to a 3. I see your point. It's still not good. But hey. I mean, yeah, back in Muawiyah's time, we sort of had something working together, but it was a bit of a mess. Okay, so I'm sticking with a 3. Are you going with a 3 as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so with a 3 and a 3, we get a 6 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man looked like? And I don't have a description for you today, so you are entirely free to let your imagination fly. Okay, so Cyril has finished their drawing. Let me pick it up and I'll describe it to you all.
Do it.
Ooh, nice. I like it. So, there is a brown background with some strong lighting coming in from Abd Allah's left. And you can see him there. He does look... You mentioned that he looks concerned. He does look concerned. He looks...
Yeah.
What we have here...
But I think that,
Yeah, he's an older man. He has a long, straight nose, an intense beard all around. And his eyes just look like they're tired. Looks like he's had a lot to deal with, and he's just like, again.
I think that
fine."
tracks.
Yeah. And then he has a lovely turban on his head in white, just built up with plenty of little folds there. And he's just contemplating what has brought him to this point where he's having to ask his mother if he should just die in a blaze of glory in battle. And, frankly, he tried his best. He had good intentions, but ultimately didn't really work out, did it? So thank you, Cyril, for this lovely portrait. For all of you that would like to see it, you can go to our Discord if you're a patron. You can go to the episode notes in the description or on our website in Cyril's portrait gallery. Now, Cyril, let me show you the disappointing outcome of what he actually looks like. So can you see?
Yes. Oh boy, it's another coin.
Yep.
So he doesn't look like anything. He's just Khosrow.
He's just Khosrow.
Again.
Yeah, it's just him.
Yeah, so
guy, yep.
Thanks.
That's it. That's all we really have. It. Yeah, it's the exact same coin with some Arabic writing on the edge, and it's just Khosrow because that's what we have. Which, incidentally, might be, according to some scholars, the origin of the crescent and star as a symbol of Islam, because it's on all these Sassanid coins. you can just see it there. So it's just like, oh, that's just a symbol. So that's fun. And this is his name in calligraphy. Looks neat. Calligraphy always looks neat. But yeah.
Oh, that is pretty. Yeah.
So that's quite nice.
So cool.
But how would you rate this portrait of Khosrow
Just
that
nothing.
we're seeing?
We have nothing. Like, the coin is pretty,
al-Zubayr.
but we have nothing.
Yeah, no.
So, like a 1, because we have a calligraphy thing. And a coin. A 0 would be we have nothing. So
I mean, calligraphy is just like writing his name, but fancy.
I know,
not.
but I know. Like, we have the coin, so I you know.
I guess I will also accept that coin is just like a 1, just because.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So with a 1 and a 1, he gets a 0.5 out of 5 for Face of Faces. Our next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned? From the death of Yazid to his loss of Persia.
I feel like it went relatively fast because it was like, oh, we're having the, civil war fight against this other dude. He died. Okay, I'm caliph now. And then, like, it's still people fighting to take control. So I'm going to say 5 years. It feels, 5 years.
5 years? Actually, we're slightly pessimistic, Cyril, because he reigned for a full 8 years.
Okay, I was gonna say 10 before, but I was like, there's no, like, it felt like too much.
There was enough.
So,
he did things, it was just mostly on fire.
Yeah.
So from 683 to 691, he reigned for 8 years. Divide that by 10, that's 0.8 out of 5 for lengthiness. Which brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 28.3 out of 100, making him the lowest of the new season. And looking at the old season, he is below Bahram the First and above Ardashir the Second. Who, you may ask? Exactly, I reply.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think the answer to the next question is going to be unanimous. But let's just go through it. So, do you think he is rebellious enough? Defeated enough? Do you think he is attempting to be pious enough to be a Shahanshah, or is he just a Shahanah?
Nah, it wasn't that remarkable. Like, it is remarkable in the sense of there's so much going on in these, like, this time period, but he didn't do anything to change the course of where things were going for the better or the worse.
No,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
He's just there, in the
caught
way,
in the
honestly.
thing.
He's just essentially splitting the old Sufyanid Umayyad Caliphate, which is what we had with Muawiyah and Yazid, and technically Muawiyah II, but we don't care about him, into the new stage, which is the Marwanid Umayyad Caliphate, with Marwan I, Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan, and so on. So, I'm sorry, Abdullah, you're going to have to go into the desert and meet Yazid and say that ultimately you both didn't amount to much, but hey, at least one of you tried.
Man.
So, yeah.
An attempt was made.
Yes. So that is the end of our episode. Thank you for joining. We hope you had a fun time, and we hope you'll join us next time with the first member that we're going to cover of the Marwanid Umayyad Caliphate, Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan, who is very interesting. We'll find out. Does he manage to keep the caliphate unified? And if so, does he figure out a good method of succession? We'll have to see, because... who knows? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. In the meantime, if you would like to support us, there are many ways to do so. You could check out our merch store, see if you'd like something on a t-shirt or on a mug or on a poster. Alternatively, you can join our Patreon, where we post a bunch of extra episodes on extra context around our mainline episodes. So, for example, last month we had Abu Bakr released, and this month, just next week, we're going to have the Caliph Umar. And in March, we're going to have the Caliph Marwan, who was the anti-Caliph in parallel to Ibn al-Zubayr, who we didn't really cover because he wasn't in control of much, but he is still important in defining what this new Umayyad Caliphate is going to be, so you can check it out. Alternatively, if you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine, but we'd appreciate if you could give us a review on your podcast app of choice so other people know that we exist, know that we're back, and can just tell us how things are going. And yeah, I think that's all we have. So without any further ado, we hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.